Good evening. Brexit is back. The most important by-election in British history is hotting up nicely. Even Labour insiders aren't that optimistic. One source apparently gave Andy Burnham a 55% chance of losing the seat, a 45% chance of winning. And it looks like Reform are going to potentially field this guy, Robert Kenyon. He's a British Army veteran who worked for the NHS and is now a local plumber. He stood at the last general election. He got about 32% of the vote and around 5,400 fewer votes than Josh Simons, who won it at the time for Labour. But a lot's changed, hasn't it? And at the local elections, Makerfield went fully Reform and Mr Kenyon was elected as a local councillor, smashing his Labour rival. Interestingly, the Greens are not stepping aside. There were rumours that they would, but it looks like they are going to stand here now. And to add to the chaos, Rupert Lowe's Restore Britain are apparently standing candidate Rebecca Shepherd, a local businesswoman. And to make matters even more complicated, Keir Starmer, despite reports over the weekend that he's telling his friends that he's going to step aside, well, he's not going anywhere, even if Burnham wins, apparently.
If Andy Burnham wins the Makerfield by-election, will you set out a timetable to stand down? Some of your colleagues in Cabinet want you to do.
No, I'm not going to do that. It is obviously a very important by-election. And can I be really clear, as I've also with my staff this morning, it is a fight between Labour and Reform. It's a very important fight. I will be backing 100%, whoever the candidate is, not quite chosen yet, but soon to be chosen. Whoever the Labour candidate is, I'll be 100% behind them. I want the whole of the party, the whole of the movement to come together. Whatever views people may have on the direction of the party, that needs to be put to one side. It's an important by-election. Let's come together and do what we do as a party best, which is to unite as we campaign into this by-election.
But this is the big talking point.
Britain's future lies with Europe and one day, back in the European Union.
So Labour leadership contender Wes Streeting has already come out and basically said that he would take Britain back into the EU, which puts Andy Burnham in an awkward spot. Burnham is a massive Europhile, big Remainer, and his old clips are now coming back to haunt him.
Long term, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to say it. I want to rejoin. I hope in my lifetime I see this country rejoin the European Union. I'm absolutely clear about that.
Well, how's that going to go down with the people of Makerfield? 65% of them voted for Brexit. Burnham was forced to come out and deny that he'd rejoin the EU today.
View is that Brexit has been damaging, but I also believe the last thing we should do right now is rerun those arguments. I am not proposing that the UK considers rejoining the EU. I respect the decision that was made at the referendum, and it's going to undermine everything I've said about strengthening democracy if we don't respect that vote.
It's nice to see him wearing something other than the world's shortest shorts for a change, though, isn't it? He went out for a jog in front of the cameras the other day, returned about 45 minutes later in his car, which a lot of people found a little bit weird, but he says it's because he left his car somewhere after having a pint at the football. But do you really believe him? About Brexit, I mean, not the jogging and the car stuff. I'm going to make a prediction here. Might be wrong. I'm going to make a prediction here. If Andy Burnham wins Makerfield, he'll become the Labour leader. And at the next general election, Labour's manifesto will say, rejoin the European Union. Let's get the thoughts of my panel this evening. Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, Reform UK member Sir Jake Berry and political commentator Sebastian Salek. Right, so, Carol, it's all hotting up in Makerfield, isn't it? What do you make of Andy Burnham's politics, I suppose specifically around the EU?
You know, let's be clear, Andy Burnham doesn't give a stuff about the good people of Makerfield, and I think they're smart enough not to fall for his flannel. He was saying at the weekend, I'm going to champion this community, I'm going to champion your needs. No, he's not. He's piggybacking on them to get into Downing Street. Don't forget, Labour sees people who voted for Brexit as gammon, who wrecked Britain with their dumb vote, and they will not, the people of Makerfield will not forget that, and I'm hoping they kick his ass out, and also it will sentence the Labour Party to a slow, lingering death under Starmer, which is absolutely what it deserves. You know, The people in Makerfield now must know that they're in a position to make history. This could be their revenge on the party that was founded to represent the working classes but has betrayed them at every turn, particularly this Labour Party. So I'm very much hoping that they kick his backside out, and I think they will.
OK, well, look, Jake, I'll bring you in on this. Well, what do you make of how much of a pivotal role Brexit is going to have to play here? Because, again, you, like Robert Jenrick earlier, you voted Remain, didn't you?
Well, look, I think the thing is about Andy Burnham is he wasn't standing... It was about a year ago he made those comments. He wasn't standing for election then, and it's the truth, isn't it? That's what he really believes. That was not in the Labour Party's manifesto at the last general election. They don't have a mandate to do it. It's clear that Andy Burnham wants to do it, Wes Streeting wants to do it. Keir Starmer himself said only last week, although it feels like a lifetime ago, that he wants to put Britain back at the heart of Europe. They have no mandate to do this. And rather having these Labour wars, Starmer versus Burnham versus Streeting versus Miliband versus Rayner versus whoever else, let's have what the country really wants, which is a general election. Whoever is the Labour leader after Starmer goes should seek a new mandate relatively quickly, not the day after they do it, should seek a new mandate, and let's have the debate this. It's profoundly, about this, it's profoundly undemocratic for anyone to talk about overruling that 10-year-old vote now, the biggest democratic mandate this country has ever seen in terms of numbers. It's profoundly undemocratic, and I think that's what Burnham should be calling.
What do you think, Sam? Do you think that Burnham and or Streeting will take us back into the EU, or at least look to?
I don't know that they will, and I think this is entirely consistent with what Burnham's saying. He said he wants to go back into the EU in his lifetime. Now, look, we're talking decades there. Hopefully. And that means that he's not necessarily going to stick it on the manifesto if he becomes the Labour leader. I think it's probably the right place to be. I would like to see us go back into the UK, into the EU eventually, but it's probably not politically the right thing to do if you want to keep the country together now.
It's so dishonest, though, isn't it? This all really irritates me. It is so dishonest for him to say something. It's fine to hold those views. Heartfelt about a year ago. Look, this is what I'd like to see happen. To now say, whoa, because I want your votes in Makerfield. I'm going to pull back.
But you and Jenrick both voted Remain.
But we're Democrats. And, first of all, I believe Brexit has been a good thing. And second of all, when the British people decide something, I can't, after I was kicked out by my constituents after general election, go, oh, no, you've made a mistake, I was a great MP. That is called being a democracy. You go with the wisdom of the crowd, the wisdom of the majority. And, it's profoundly wrong for Andy Burnham to be pretending he believes one thing when actually he actually believes another. And the second thing is also, I'm completely fed up of this as well. People who say that Brexit didn't work. This is failing politicians blaming us having left the European Union for our own failures. I heard David Lammy being interviewed today, and he said, well, after we left the European Union, immigration went up. Yeah, not immigration from the EU. That was Boris Johnson and the Boris wave, which saw immigration from the rest of the world. Nothing to do with Brexit.
Go back to Burnham.
Politics is failing people.
Though. This is about Burnham and him winning this seat. The thing is, why do Labour MPs believe Burnham is the saviour? I've been around long enough. Because I'm old enough to remember when he was a minister in 2010 and again in 2015. He was shockingly lacklustre back then. He was responsible for multi-billion-pound failures in policy. When he was the health secretary, he played down the effects of MRSA in the Mid-South hospitals, which cost 1,200 lives. He frightened the bejesus out of the British people over swine flu by exaggerating the symptoms. The man was hopeless when he was in office. Why are MPs now screaming, oh, if only Andy was in power? He will be Starmer Mark II. He's weak. He will take the party to the hard left. He's enthralled to the unions. He wants to raise taxes. He wants to reinstate the 50p tax rate. The man will be hopeless. If you think Starmer's bad, wait for him.
Is there a risk, do you think, Seb, that Andy Burnham is a southerner's idea of what a northern man should be?
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
So, he supports Everton. He apparently can drink 9 pints without seeming drunk, according to a friend of his. He's a bit seen as a little bit of working class, a little bit like that. Do you know what I mean? But it's like this King in the North stuff, which actually maybe isn't quite borne out by the actual facts.
Yeah, look, I think if you're going to define anybody by a catalogue of their mistakes, then of course they're going to look terrible.
What else do you define them by?
Well, you can give a balanced picture of anybody, can't you? But look, there are two things here. One is that, yes, of course he is less tarnished because he hasn't been in Westminster. But the problem is here that we are looking at personalities and we're looking for figureheads to come and replace Starmer. We should be looking at policies. And even now, even today, we don't have a concrete idea of what Burnham wants to do.
Yes, we do.
And that should really concern us.
We
no,
absolutely
we don't.
know what
We have a vibe. We have a rough idea, but we don't have hard policies.
We know he agrees with more welfare, higher taxes. We know that. It's been his mantra since he was 15 and joined the Labour Party.
I can. Failing the victims of the grooming gangs in Manchester.
Exactly.
OK, so you're willfully misunderstanding my question. I'm asking about what will he do if he's Prime Minister.
Is this what he's done?
No. I'm asking you, what will he do if he's Prime Minister?
But you can
Well,
look
he
at what
has
he's
a
done.
Labour's manifesto. Listen, in Manchester, he actually spent 100 million quid of taxpayers' money on a failed
So I'm just going to stop you
clean air
there because
scheme.
this proves my point. None of us around this sofa can name a Burnham policy because he hasn't
Because
elucidated
he's
them
not
properly.
been leader. How can you say to
He
name
came
a
out with some
Burnham
policies
policy?
this week. We should talk about them.
Go on.
He wants to renationalise the water.
Yes.
He wants to renationalise electricity, gas. He wants to renationalise the railways, actually already existing Labour policy. He is a red in tooth and claw socialist today. By the way, I don't believe he'll do any of that when he gets into power. I think Andy Burnham says whatever he wants people to believe. And it's easy to say he is popular as the Mayor of Manchester. Let's not forget that as a Mayor of any, whether you're Boris Johnson, Ben Houchen, anyone, or Andy Burnham, you're like Father Christmas. All you're doing is giving away taxpayers' money to the people you represent. They are all popular. It is easy. Patrick, I could take your credit card to the nearest pub here to the studio and I'd be the most popular man at the bar. So actually, Andy Burnham had the ability to raise taxes. He didn't do it. I remember I was Northern Powers Minister. I said, look, why didn't you raise a business rate levy? He said, oh, no, I don't want to tax the people of Manchester. So let's see. I think Carol's right. I think when he has the glare of leadership, being Prime Minister, he will
challenge, serious challenge for Labour. It was a challenge for anyone, actually. I mean, it looks like it's going to be a two-horse race to reform and Labour. It could be one of those by-elections. I mean, I think, didn't Sarah Potion won by like 4 votes or something, didn't she?
Really narrow, wasn't it?
Like, ridiculous, yeah. So it could be one of those. Reform have got, I suppose, Seb, the foundation of a 65% Brexit backing area. It might have changed over the years. We don't know, really. 65% Brexit backing area recently went reform in the local elections. And what I can't quite get my head around is some of the vox pops I've seen recently of people in Makerfield who said, I voted reform at the local elections, but I would vote for Andy Burnham. So how are you going from voting for reform to voting for Labour in the space of like a week? It seems a bit,
I think the issue here is that all of us think in terms of cascading views, which is that if somebody has one opinion, you can guess all the rest of them, because we live in the Westminster bubble and we all think like that. But most people out there don't. They make up their mind on individual issues. So it's very easy to be swayed by one reform policy and then swayed by one Labour policy. And that's how floating voters exist.
If I lived in Makerfield, I would be furious that this bloke who has nothing to do with my area or constituency
his children go to school in the constituency. He lives next door.
Is coming in and saying he really cares about them. He doesn't give a stuff about them. He's piggybacking on them to get back into Downing Street. And that's all it is. It's not about... It's not about looking after the needs of those people.
Do you think reform have to go for a local candidate?
Well, I think it would be best for reform. I don't know who the candidate's going to be. I think it would be best for reform. I see that Lee Anderson was appearing on this channel this evening and said that they are not going to have a carpetbagger. It will then probably likely be someone local. I think that's what people in Makerfield should want. They should want a good, hard-working reform member of Parliament who's going to represent their views in Parliament.
Do you think the Tories and Restore Britain should stand aside?
No, I think all parties should stand in all elections. That's the point of being a national party. I've always believed that. I hear these noises off about people should step down. Let the voters decide who represent them, not some stitch-up between political parties.
Interesting. All right, well, look, we'll see what tomorrow holds, really, when West Streety no doubt tries to shaft Burnham again with some of the policy that Burnham...
Right, picture this. A sleepy Lancashire seat nobody outside Westminster could point to on a map suddenly becomes the place where Britain decides what it actually believes anymore. Welcome to Makerfield. Population, everyone's new political headache. Makerfield voted 65% Leave back in 2016, rock-solid Labour territory for generations. So why does it suddenly feel like the most contested patch of turf in the country? Because Andy Burnham wants back into Parliament, and everyone from here to Brussels has an opinion about why. Now, Burnham's the Mayor of Manchester, the bloke who talks like your mate down the pub, but governs like he's auditioning for the top job. And that's the theory doing the rounds. This by-election isn't really about Makerfield at all. It's a stepping stone, a very expensive, very public stepping stone toward challenging Keir Starmer. But here's where it gets deliciously messy. Burnham's told pro-European audiences he'd love Britain back in the EU within his lifetime. Then he turns around and insists he respects the referendum. No reruns, thank you very much. That's not nuance, that's trying to ride two horses heading in opposite directions, and eventually you fall off both. Speaking of falling off things, let's talk about the competition. Enter Robert Kenyon, Reform UK's man on the ground. Army veteran, NHS worker, plumber and already a local councillor. Reform didn't just show up here, they built a base, brick by brick, while Westminster wasn't looking. Local elections already went their way. Insiders reportedly give Burnham barely a coin flip's chance of winning.
And Labour's civil war isn't helping. You've got Wes Streeting cheerfully banging the Rejoin the EU drum, while Starmer offers up vague poetry about putting Britain back at the heart of Europe, whatever that means this week. It's less a unified party and more three different bands playing three different songs at the same festival, hoping nobody notices the noise. Here's the real question underneath all the psychodrama. Is honouring a 9-year-old referendum still binding, or does changing public opinion earn a rethink? That's not a Makerfield question, that's a Britain question, and this by-election is simply where it gets asked loudest.
Because strip away the mudslinging over jogging scandals and pub anecdotes, and what you're actually watching is a stress test. Can British democracy still bend toward voters who care more about issues than tribal loyalty? Or are we stuck in a standoff where winning means silencing the other side rather than persuading them? Makerfield won't answer that on its own, but it might just tell us which direction the wind's blowing. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.